In 1824, Europe was enjoying a period of stability after the upheaval of the Napoleonic Wars, which had ended less than a decade earlier on the field at Waterloo. In music, it was the year of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and Schubert's Octet. In Britain, Lord Byron's death in Greece was widely mourned. The National Gallery was founded in London, the forerunner of the Royal National Lifeboat Institution was inaugurated, and Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein, published the first posthumous edition of her husband Percy Bysshe Shelley's poetry. Bath was still one of Britain's major cities, with a population of 50,000. But its heyday as a resort for the upper classes was fading. Bathing at the seaside was all the rage now. So when Bath's oldest assembly rooms, between the Abbey and the River Avon, were gutted by fire, a vigorous campaign was mounted to replace them with a temple of learning for residents and visitors. The building that rose from the burnt-out shell of the lower assembly rooms during 1824 was designed specifically for its role as Bath's literary and scientific institution. Throughout 1824, its founders drew up regulations and raised funds from subscribers and Bath Corporation. £900 was allocated to the institution's library. The Marquess of Lansdowne, a major Whig politician and former Chancellor of the Exchequer, became the first president. Other prestigious support was enlisted, including from the Duke of Clarence. Later, as King William IV, he would confer patronage from the Crown so that the institution could add royal to its name. Queen Victoria subsequently confirmed the honour. The building that opened in January 1825 boasted a portico, a laboratory, 2 libraries, a lecture room and an exhibition room for a museum. An inaugural lecture on Bath's scientific heritage was followed by a sumptuous dinner. A collection of important books, historical artefacts and scientific specimens was started, growing rapidly with the help of donations from individuals and organisations. In 1825, the Bath and West Agricultural Society passed on its mineral collection, and 2 years later the Corporation of Bath deposited its Roman antiquities. As the institution grew in prestige, a diverse lecture programme was offered, such as elocution, poetry, Stonehenge, phrenology, geology, botany, optics, coins, French literature and comparative anatomy. And in 1834 the institution laid out its botanical gardens beside the Avon, in what is now Parade Gardens. In the following years the museum continued to develop, with the addition of an ornithological taxidermy collection of more than 1,000 items, a notable mineral collection, and thanks to Charles Moore, a fossil collection that included 32 ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs and a number of type specimens from which previously unknown species were described. From 1856, in a demonstration of its public value, the museum was opened 3 days a week, devoted to the free use of the working classes. In the same decade, the eminent natural historian, the Reverend Leonard Jennings, friend and collaborator of Charles Darwin, began his 40-year involvement. Jennings donated 2,000 natural history volumes, original manuscript observations and preserved specimens, as well as valuable correspondence from Darwin and other leading contemporary scientists. In 1864, when the institution hosted the first meeting in Bath of the British Association for the Advancement of Science, the explorer Dr. David Livingstone spoke of his travels in Africa. He's pictured here with colleagues on a field trip organised by Charles Moore. Facilities were also provided for outside specialist groups, many of which published their proceedings. The collection expanded, with additions ranging from the ethnographic souvenirs of Victorian travellers and the memorabilia of Crimean War veterans, to the Reverend Francis Lockie's photographs of Bath from the 1850s. After the city corporation opened the Roman bath to the public in 1897, the institution returned items placed in its care 70 years before, while retaining and expanding its own Roman collection. Around the turn of the 20th century, the institution continued to attract pioneering spirits, such as traveller, artist and archaeologist Adela Breton, pictured here in Mexico. A new challenge came in 1932 when Bath Corporation demolished the original building in Terrace Walk to make way for road improvements. Treasures that had attracted almost 14,000 visitors only the year before were hastily packed and moved to new premises in Queen Square. The Second World War left its mark on Bath in many ways, and the institution was directly affected when in 1940 the Admiralty took over the building at Queen Square. The curator was given just 48 hours to pack up the books and collection for storage. The Admiralty did not leave until 1959, when Bath Corporation became the sole trustee. Some of the collection returned as Bath's Geology Museum, and later the City Reference Library shared the building, which came under the control of Avon County Council in 1974. Crucial to preserving the institution's collection was Ron Pickford, a Bath-born former serviceman who was appointed as curatorial assistant and rescued large parts of it from terrible neglect. He ensured proper curation and conservation until his retirement in 1985. Happily, the standards he set have been maintained ever since. When the reference library moved to the new podium building, a proposal to disperse the collection and dispose of the Queen Square premises drew sustained and vociferous opposition. By 1988, a group called the Friends of Bath Royal Literary and Scientific Institution had formed. Eventually, the institution's future was safeguarded. There was a financial boost when two Bath women, Stella Pearce and Martha Inskip, took legal action to force Avon County Council to pay back rent for its occupancy of almost 2 decades. Thanks to these and other committed volunteers, the organisation enjoyed a renaissance. A new Bath Royal Literary and Scientific Institution charity was set up in 1992 with 400 members and new trustees, and Bath City Council helped fund building renovations and rented office space. For the past 3 decades, the organisation has continued to promote science, literature and the arts through exhibitions, talks and activities targeted at all ages, to host many local societies and interest groups, to welcome visitors, from academic researchers to royal guests, and to encourage original research. Around 150 public talks take place each year, ranging from architecture and astronomy to world affairs, philosophy and poetry. Many are live-streamed and later published on YouTube. The institution is recognised as an accredited museum. Objects go on display every year in free exhibitions at Queen Square, and the collection's treasures still have much to offer science, such as revealing anatomical details of the fossil heart of an early fish or the brain case of an ichthyosaur, as this 3D scan demonstrates. Loans from the collection continue to support scientific and cultural institutions, from ichthyosaurs at the National Museum of Wales to exhibits at Bristol Museum, the Roman Baths Museum, No. 1 Royal Crescent and Bath Abbey. Now, as the institution enters its 3rd century in robust health, its mission remains as important as the day it was founded, to enrich the cultural life of Bath and the wider world, and to promote the joy of learning among new generations of the curious. Truly inspiring minds since 1824.